Now that Trial of the Grand Crusader has been released on the PTR and we're finally able to test out this raid, we can actually see how hard or challenging or easy it is to complete this raid on normal and heroic difficulty. Before I even mention anything, you can go in on normal difficulty and switch it to heroic difficulty at any time. So you can go in and test it yourself. And if you want to know any of the boss strategies, I did release a boss guide with old footage that I will re-release probably tonight with updated footage, but I used old footage from Tank Spot, so it's like super blurry footage. I just didn't want to use private server footage in case you could get in trouble for that. But I've now full cleared the raid twice at least on 25-man difficulty. I have raid led both of those, as well as raid led a full pug to full clear all of the heroic bosses except for a noob, the last boss, because we ran out of time. One of our healers was actually near a tornado, was like literally happening the town over from him, and we had to rush it. So then we went in and defeated a noob on normal mode. One of the first things you guys should know is that block sets are not working. Block sets will not be working. They were used originally to immunize yourself against exposed weakness on a noob Iraq from the burrower ads, from their auto attack. This is not the way it's working anymore. Historically, if you read it, if you blocked all of the damage, 0 times the multiplier, you would take 0 damage. Instead, now you get the multiplier afterwards. So you see the 225% modifier damage. Now it's applied before you actually block it. So you are taking the full damage and then blocking afterwards. It's just a way with the new client that block is interacting with the game. So your block sets won't be working. I know a lot of people have built up their block sets, and I'm sorry for that, but it is what it is. Anyways, also, if you are trying to get updated add-ons on the PTR to work, go into my Twitch chat and ! add-on, and it will give you this add-on right here, this zip file. Download it and put it in your add-ons folder, in your PTR add-ons folder, and it will actually fix almost all of your add-ons. Now they will be working. Or you could go into CurseForge and set it to like the alpha versions to get add-ons working. Either way, after finishing this raid multiple times, let me break down some of the biggest takeaways I have for you guys. Normal modes of this raid will be very easy. You will giga blast through them. Bosses just kind of fall over. You can destroy them. You can technically wipe if you don't know the mechanics, but it definitely is something that you feel a little bit overpowered for, which is something we expected. Normal modes drop 245 eye level gear, and we have the hard mode geared from Ulduar. Ulduar was always meant to be more relevant now, as they buffed Ulduar to be more relevant for longer. So that gear is really solid, but still heroics are definitely a challenge. The heroic mode is definitely a challenge in itself, but you do obviously want to know all of the mechanics, and it feels very solid. At least I would say it feels very solid. The mechanics are really fun and engaging, and some of the fights are crazy and hectic and wild. There's definitely going to be ways to min-max these fights. All of the encounters will for sure be min-maxable. We will be able to figure out how to do more damage, how to kind of parse. One thing that a lot of people don't realize is on the first boss, Acid Maw and Dreadskill, the second phase of it, if you are getting the debuff, especially the poison debuff, and you aren't the tank, then run to the tank. It seems like a little bit challenging, but if you see in the background right now, you can see the people running towards the tank right now. That is just really helpful. Make sure you run towards the tank. I do, again, have boss guides on the channel to just break down all of the boss mechanics. But even so, this was a pug group. I was able to go in and raid lead people off of stream and off of trade chat, and we were able to 2 to 3 shot everything. We even 1-shot faction champions. So the first boss encounter is one of the easier ones. I would focus on nuking down the snowballed vassals that you can see in the background here when you are on the first boss. Technically, I think you will be able to nuke down the boss and then cleave the vassals later, but it just feels a lot more smooth to have them down when you're transitioning into phase 2. For the second boss, Lord Jaraxxus, one of the tips I think everyone should go into this just knowing is nuke down these nether portals when they spawn. The first one will always be in this position, and sometimes on heroic mode you will only get one Mistress of Pain if you are quick enough. If not, they will continue summoning Mistresses of Pain, and it's not really that helpful for your raid, so you want to down those as quick as you can. Other than that, also, if you only have one mage, instead of just letting them spell steal, it actually seems like it might be better for your raid to dispel the buff. He has a magic buff he buffs on himself that mages want to spell steal to do a ton more damage. The issue is if he does a chain lightning while he has a high amount of those buffs, he will one-shot a ton of people. So we just actually went in and cleansed that right away, and it made this fight extremely easy to get down. Now, the loot in Trial of Grand Crusader is the thing that's the most exciting, and it's also one of the things that's going to be the most contested because you only get a limited amount of tier gear every single raid. And if you get all of your tier gear, your entire raid needs like, I don't know, something like 28 weeks in this raid to get a full set. It's going to be pretty hectic. So you're going to need to prioritize gear really, really crucially. It's going to be really important to give the gear to the correct people, but you shouldn't necessarily see this being like a stopgap raid. This probably won't be a raid where guilds can't clear it for half of the phase. I would anticipate most guilds will get the last boss down, a noob, in probably the first few weeks, maybe the first month, and we definitely will see a really, really, really fast race to world first here. All of the guilds will have all of their strategies ironed out pretty solidly. One of the most fun and hectic encounters is currently the faction champions. This one is coming to us from like a mostly pre-nerf state. I think there was some nerfs that happened to it, so it's a very like pre-nerfed version of the fight, but I was even then, if you have very good coordination, able to actually one-shot this. You see what I did here at the start of this fight? I actually gripped out the shaman mob and we gripped out the priest mob. Now, traditionally on non-Blizzard realms, let's call them, you would generally focus on DPSing down the hunter mob first, but that's not going to be the case for you guys. You're going to want to nuke down the shaman mob. It does insane amounts of healing, and you want to then destroy the priest mob if you have it. Everybody needs to kite around. The melee mobs will focus people sometimes, and if they reach you, they can absolutely one-shot you. So you just need to really try to do as much kiting as possible. This fight is like never going to be scripted the same way. I don't think it's going to be on Warcraft vlogs. I'm pretty sure they announced that already, and like it's just a hectic, wild fight where you can do a ton of damage if you're an unholy DK, but most people won't be doing a ton of cleave damage, but you're going to be running around and just kind of trying to see things. Mostly, if you can get some of these mobs down before they've actually killed a lot of people in your raid, then it gets infinitely easier. So you'll bloodlust early and try to make sure you get interrupts and cleaves down, or just nuke down the shaman mob, then the priest. We originally started by trying to get the hunter and then the rogue down first, and I think the hunter and rogue are great options for 3 and 4, but I think getting the shaman down first is just so important because it does so much healing. Try to do an AoE fear at the beginning of the fight, I would say, and we sent in 2 of our warriors to AoE fear at the very start of the fight. It actually will trigger them to use their PvP trinkets really early and get that out of the way so you can start CCing. Twin Valkyr is another fight that can be super hectic, but I think it's like one of the fun ones as well because you can do insane amounts of damage. You can do crazy cleave here. You could actually wait until you have a ton of stacks of your buffs so that you're doing ridiculous damage to the bosses before you even use Bloodlust. In my raid, we used Bloodlust early because I just wanted to kind of get ahead of things. I wasn't trying to min-max. This was a group of people that I got together that don't all know each other, have never played together. It is just a random group of people. It's a pug. And so I think it's more reliable to Bloodlust early, but GDKPs shouldn't have too many issues on this encounter. You have enough damage already in your current gear to be able to down this encounter, and this is even on heroic mode. Just make sure people try to rotate cooldowns. Rotating cooldowns can be really smart, and also calling when a new special ability is going to go out. There's AoE damage that can happen, and if you deal with it correctly, like using Fire Aura Mastery, because the light or holy damage is fire damage, or Shadow Aura Mastery combined with D-Sax, then you will live and be able to down this. But this will be definitely probably a huge stopgap for a lot of raids. This is definitely the first fight or the main fight that's a big step up in difficulty from any of the other ones. We also will see a lot of raids struggle with being able to do the mechanics quickly enough. You can see this light vortex going out in the background. That's the one that a lot of people can be really slow with switching their polarity, and that is definitely something that will get you killed very quickly. Then we have the last boss, Anub Arak. This boss is another fight. Like all of these fights, a lot is going on and you want to kind of be paying attention to that. But in reality, it's not the most challenging, but I think this is going to be the one that most people struggle on for sure. On Heroic, this boss absolutely trucks tank. And it's not even just the boss that trucks tank, but we also have ad tanks, 2 of them, that are getting absolutely destroyed by the ads. So you need to be really, really quick with how you deal with the ads. You need to play smoothly, rotate CDs on picking up the ads, and make sure that you're managing your frost well. You can absolutely cleave the ads down, and I highly suggest you do. It is super useful and it'll just increase your raid's DPS. But remember, the hard part on this fight is always going to be in the last phase. Look at how quickly people take damage right here. You are going to be at very low HP in phase 3. You don't want to top people off because his leeching swarm does damage to you for the HP you have. What I mean by that is it basically does 10% of your current HP every second, or on heroic mode, 30% of your current HP every second. So if you heal all the way up to full, 30% of your entire HP bar will be chunked out every single second, and that hits everybody in the raid. So you want to keep people a little bit below half HP, and he will do an AoE damage that hits a few of the people in the raid that you do need to keep alive, but anyone that's not getting hit by that doesn't really need to worry about dropping all the way down to 0. So make sure you burn down the boss. This is definitely a challenge, definitely a huge step up from any of the other encounters here, and especially on heroic. Also, little tip here, during the submerge phase, you see the boss is actually chasing down someone. He's actually going to be focused on someone and moving a lot quicker as time goes on. Look at what I did here. I called for a bop on the pallet, or the Death Knight, just to make sure that it works, and it does. So what you can do to make this phase super easy actually, and only take up 2 of the frost patches on the ground, is kite the boss around for about 8 to 9 seconds, rocket boot away, and then call for a bop, and use the full duration of the bop, about 9 seconds of it, and then from there you want to bring it onto an ice patch. This means you can do this twice and he will only break 2 ice patches in the entirety of his submerge phase. This makes it way easier for you to deal with the phase 1 and 2 mechanics in heroic mode. In normal mode, it doesn't matter too much, but on heroic mode, it's really crucial because you have a very limited amount of these ice patches. And so after clearing this raid multiple times with the question, how hard is TOGC? I can honestly say it is definitely a bit difficult, but it is not harder than I think hard mode Ulduar was. Buffed hard mode Ulduar was significantly more of a challenge, so if you were struggling on some of those later hard modes in Ulduar, I think your guild will get a lot faster at clearing through TOGC, and the gear upgrades here will help you go back into Ulduar and farm more Valenirs or more of the hard mode loot from Ulduar. So that's pretty exciting. It is a very fun raid. That's what it is, a very fun raid, but it will be a very short raid. It is 5 encounters that you will blast through once your guild gets really good at doing it, and then you will have the rest of the week essentially free. It'll be amazing for GDKPs because everyone needs the tier gear and they're gonna pay out the wazoo. If you missed it, I actually lost 1.87 million gold in my last GDKP, and I don't have 1.87 million gold, not even a million. I'm not even close. So I owe Jordy a ton of gold. That was mistakes were made. I'll make a video about it. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed this raid. And one more time, if you want some future announcements about World of Warcraft, make sure to check out my stream on May 13th.